Mothers are selfless beings who always put their family first, whether it's their children, their household chores, family, and very often they tend to forget about themselves. They're running between the houseworks, hustling between their own work at times, and their self-care really takes a back seat. So this month on Banega Swasth India, we are asking mothers, in fact, we're requesting them to take care of themselves. And we have a very special guest with us. We have with us Prashant Sinha, COO and co-founder of Momspresso, a platform for mothers, by mothers, and of mothers. Thank you so much, Prashant, for joining us today.
Thanks, Ambika, for having me here.
So Prashant, tell us the journey that how Momspresso is empowering mothers, in their journey of motherhood. Tell us about Momspresso, how it started.
I think it's a very important topic that you picked up on self-care. And one of the most important topic of self-care, which I would say for women in the country, is about expression, being able to express themselves in the language of the choice or in the format of the choice. So Momspresso is a platform where women, there are 75,000 of these women who come and create content in form of blogs, videos, and short stories. And there are 25 million other women who are coming and consuming this content. What is so powerful about Momspresso is the content. While Momspresso name sounds very English, 85% of the content is consumed in languages, in regional languages. And therefore, we are in 10 languages. And all the content on Momspresso is created by users in the country, right from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, about what they feel about life. And one thing that they really feel about is motherhood, which is quite lonely. The second thing also is, in this journey of motherhood, what we also see that women are quite lonely, and therefore they don't know whether to speak to their own husbands or their in-laws or their own mother. But they see another tribe of women on Momspresso where they can relate to, they can talk to, and they can resonate with. And that's what Momspresso is all about, empowering women with expression.
Expression, and like you said, you all have so many women on the platform. Mr. Sinha, tell us, what are the kind of issues you all see on the platform, what women are facing, be it in terms of mental health, physical health, as well as emotionally?
Yeah, I think, it's a very interesting question. And what I would like to do is I'll break it in three parts. The first part is in terms of physical health. There's obviously women are feeling, fatigued, tired. There are, postpartum issues that women are facing. But what I would like to touch upon even bigger is this. Now it's even more pronounced as this thing called postpartum depression, which is not only a thing of the metro cities, but as you go down the strata, you see it across. Okay. In terms of other issues that as you go lower down and look at more stuff, this big sense of worthlessness, is coming through when we talk to women. And this is what we read out of content and research. Yeah. This big sense of anxiety, there are body changes that are happening, body shaming that they feel. Okay. And the last we see is around financial. There's a big thing on, because the people who are working, even the top strata who are working or the bottom strata and rural people who are working, this whole thing of financial insecurity becomes very big. So at all three levels, women are facing issues, mental, physical, as well as emotional.
Yeah, and I think what you said, sometimes, the pressure also, like, what they're doing. And obviously, motherhood is a very time-consuming job. And unfortunately, many times, you put everything back and then you sometimes do feel, like you said, you feel worthless. Mr. Sinha, what are some of the rising health issues which can be prevented or at least detected well in time so that, there's not any serious consequence, which could be done through self-care?
Yeah. So though we are not experts in the field, but given that we have 2,000 doctors on the platform who come and create content, and also the mothers who raise issues, there are three areas that I will talk about. The first area is this whole thing on, we did a research 2 years ago around, self-care. And one thing that came out, that even in metro cities, 75% of the women knew that there could be issues around breast cancer, but only 25% go and take the test. So this whole issue around going and taking a test is one big issue. Okay. The second big issue where women always keep them at the last is their own personal health in terms of nutritional deficiencies. And deficiencies right from, prepartum to postpartum. If you look at from iron deficiency at one level to B12 to iodine and also DHA and omega fatty acids, the deficiency is always there, but women never take a step out to go and check that out, is the second piece. Yeah. And on the mental stuff, I spoke about stuff like postpartum depression, anxiety, stigma, all those kind of issues, which have to be addressed by, either people like you or people like us, on a continual basis, because that is something which people don't come and openly talk about.
And like you rightly said, it's the awareness, how we put it across, that women know that they can take care, the fear, the factor, rather than, I think once they know well in time, so many things can be controlled. In fact, recently a gynecologist, Mr. Sinha, was saying that most of the cancers are preventable. But if you go in time, check yourself, because waiting for symptoms is definitely very long. In fact, Mr. Sinha, you're also working with Reckitt, and the idea here is to reach 7 million new moms digitally. Could you take us through your work towards promoting self-care, both rural as well as urban areas?
So I think it's a beautiful partnership that we have with Reckitt, and Reckitt came back with this whole initiative of Reach Each Child program, where the idea was, helping women with simple content that they can understand in the native languages. So if you look at from a perspective of internet or digital world, while there are every day there are so many people, there are close to 50 million women on Facebook only coming and consuming content. Language content on women health issues are very few and far between. So what we are doing with Reckitt is we are creating very simple, blogs, infographics, lives with experts, also, articles, and helping these women understand issues around mental health, hygiene, and also taking care of the newborns.
So like you were talking about the digital platform, right? So Momspresso is a digital platform where you'll have a great reach. So we know the digital divide, unfortunately, in our country. How do you target rural women considering this huge divide?
Yeah. So, we were the early ones to understand that if you want to crack the digital, the audience in the tier 2, tier 3, and also rural, you have to be language first. Okay. So in 2017 is when we launched Hindi, but Momspresso was only English before that. We launched Hindi, and we were very clear that we don't want to translate a single piece of content. We want to originally create it. So therefore, women from that segment started coming and creating content. And what we realized that, you just can't tell everyone to create textual content. So what we did was we created formats in which people could do very short 100-word stories, or people could create video content, short format video content.
Sure.
Going forward, the idea has also moved to audio, where the idea is, people who don't have that much of data bandwidth with them can also consume audio content with us.
Okay. That's a great way, to make sure that everybody can, the awareness can reach them, the important aspects of health can reach them, or self-care, let me put it that way. Mr. Sinha, during the lockdown period, everyone was at home, whether it was work from home, whether it was trying new things, cooking, keeping a tab on the COVID situation. What has been the impact on the work-life balance? And specifically, obviously, because women, I think they were impacted more because everybody was in the house, the kids were eating, at different times, husbands were home, in-laws, parents, and plus the stress of COVID. So how has it impacted women?
Yeah, so we did continuous amount of research in that period, okay, and what came out was women were not doing double shifts, okay, people were doing triple shifts, in the sense that the double shift was managing the home, morning and evening. The second shift was all around managing the online classes for children, and third shift was if they're working, managing their work as well. So one of the biggest things that came out was there was a huge amount of the stress quotient was very high for women at that level. The second level was also in terms of how do we keep the kids actively engaged in the initial period, and therefore they went heavy on screen time and saying that, okay, fine, DIY craft for kids, extracurricular activity for kids. That was second. And third, given that in the initial period the restaurants were closed, women were also looking at finding recipes. Okay, so all of these were initial phase. But if you look at the third phase, the last phase of pandemic that we just saw, it was quite the contrast where women were saying, how do I get the kids away from screen time? Okay, that was one big thing. And, get them ready to go back to school, given the schools were opening. The second piece was about themselves. Now that they were used to working from home, and now that work is calling them back, how do they manage that piece of working from office as well as home? And third was, while they were looking at immunity builders initially for children and the family, now they're living out how can you keep healthy, and therefore the kind of food products that can keep you healthy. This is what has come out of a research with moms during the COVID period.
I think you've put that out really well, because as a mother, I can totally, what you were saying, it's so true, because every stage was a different, it was a different battle or a different challenge. Momspresso also has a COVID tracker, which I was reading about, to keep a track on online behavior. what kind of content are women consuming, especially in areas of health and nutrition? Because they are the ones, obviously, it's a platform by women for women. So what is the kind of content you see?
So if you look at there has been a huge surge of content right from the start of COVID around how can I build immunity in my children. So I think in my family. So immunity is one big cloud that we see in terms of data that people are picking up and the content that people are picking up. The second is, post Delta, the thing was all about how do I, and everyone thought that, nothing can happen to them, and then you lost, very close ones. So this second piece of content that we saw was, how to remain healthy, and therefore stuff like, yoga classes, stuff like, looking at after yourself. Those are the kind of content that, started picking up. And now we are seeing that, this whole piece of content of how to get kids away from screen time is again coming back like big time.
Mm-hmm. I think it feels good to hear that, checking on yoga and things for yourself, because that's again, probably post COVID, a lot of people did realize that how important their health is, because COVID has been, like you rightly said, you never know who it impacted. Menstruation, like people, it is a taboo still. How can we really break it around it? And even women in urban areas, unfortunately, you don't really often hear that, oh, I'm late to work, or unfortunately I'm not well, can I work from home because I'm menstruating? People do hesitate saying that. And even in today, like the 21st century. So are we now seeing companies go that extra mile for their women employees? What is the kind of, blogs or articles or content you see on your platform?
See, I think, while there is a lot of discussions happening in the space of menstrual hygiene and menstrual stigma around menstruation, but the stigma continues as you go down when we read languages. Okay, languages clearly there. Okay, I think the biggest service that everyone can do is to this this normal issue is this whole thing on normalizing the conversation.
Yeah.
And therefore, like I said about men being involved in paternity policy and getting them back to work, helping them, giving them leaves. Here, you need to get involved. You involve fathers, husbands, brothers in dialogues. Okay, and also the older women in the household, not to make it a stigma, because the only thing that can help is dialogue and make it normal. It is extremely normal, and there's no point, hiding it or putting it under the radar and calling it a stigma by itself.
Okay, that's so true. Actually, it's high time we start. Normalizing like you rightly said, it's about normalizing the conversation, because it is a normal conversation. Why is it an uncomfortable conversation? I think that's really well put. Tell us again, going back to Reckitt, Prashant, how does Momspresso propagate messages on health, hygiene, and nutrition through Reckitt's Reach Each Child program?
So, like I said, we are creating extremely simple messaging in languages. And we are targeting 3 key states: Gujarat, Rajasthan, and Maharashtra. Given that we are languages, and we are in all 3, we are in Marathi, Gujarati, and of course Hindi. So we are creating content in all languages for them.
Yeah.
The 4 key areas that we are looking at. The first key area is the first 1,000 days for a baby. I think that's the most important, and that's a time where mothers need maximum help. So content around that. The second, as I touched upon, which came out of our research and everywhere, is this whole thing on mental health. And how do you help mothers on mental health? The third thing is this whole thing on helping the kids. There no kids. There can't be any malnutrition in kids. That's the third area that we are possibly touching upon.
And all very critical, because 1,000 days is where it starts from. Yeah. But another important, I would say point, suggestion, Mr. Sinha, is sometimes, women, because I was talking to, again, a gynecologist for this documentary, and, is that women take care during their pregnancy, and the minute they deliver, they totally fall back. They're taking care of the child, but they forget having their, the extra medicines they need or anything they need. They just drop everything. So I wish, when we had talked about 1,000 days, that they still keep focusing on themselves, because they think the baby's happened, we should just take care of the baby. So I think that's something which a lot of women do. Momspresso is growing every single day. In fact, I've been closely working with you all. What is the way forward for Momspresso now?
So, I think there are some very simple things that we need to do now, given that we have this engine going of women creating content and other women consuming content. One of the biggest things that is happening is the amount of content that is coming in Momspresso is huge. Therefore, through our data initiatives, we want to personalize the content to whatever level possible for everyone to be able to consume the right amount of content and the relevant content for her. That's one. The second is, as we go down the strata from tier 2 to tier 3 cities, we are adding languages. So from 10 languages, we move to 14 languages in next 12 to 18 months. And third, as I said, is the initiative around audio, where the idea is we enable people to create content in audio format and consume in audio format as well.
So great stuff lined up. I mean, congratulations and wish you all the very best. Thank you so much for joining us today.